approval of the agenda. I'd like to add something to the agenda. I think we should send a letter of congratulations to our MLA, re-elected. We could add that to where?
9F.
9F. Okay. You know, we, pardon?
I would also like to do something.
Okay.
I'd like to, Plymouth School, I've been having a lot of, we had a discussion before with for the Westport School, and they changed the school zone, and it's not on Main Road anymore. It's on the side road where the school is. But the Plymouth one it goes too far. It's like, it's far. It's when you first come into the school zone, and it's way after. It's so far. Just a lot of people would like me to bring it up for discussion to see if we can, Department of Transportation can shorten it a bit. And it's a 50 zone there.
School zone Plymouth 9G. 9G?
9G.
9G,
School
okay.
zone Plymouth School.
Yeah.
I'd like to,
Yes.
I should have added it prior to adjournment, in-camera session regarding negotiations for ferry terminal.
Okay.
Under,
After question period,
yeah,
13A or 13 something?
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Nothing else? Does somebody care to approve the agenda as amended? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Conflict of interest declaration. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything, any item on the agenda? If not, I would like to say, mention that Councillor LeBlanc sends his regrets. Presentations, we don't have any. Adoption of minutes, Emergency Measures Organization, June the 5th.
So moved.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Special council meeting, boundary review, September the 4th.
So moved.
Second.
What happens if I notice something?
Pardon?
Do I mention it now?
Yes.
When I was reading them, at the very end, we're under boundary review where it says, it is moved by Geeser and seconded by Dan Hughes to have staff develop, etc. It says motion carried, 2 in favor, 7 against.
No, motion defeated. Should say motion defeated.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just read what I want to read. I see what I want to see, I guess. Okay,
It's hard to carry a motion with 2 in favor.
yeah,
That change will be made.
okay, good.
Thank you.
All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Regular council meeting of September the 10th.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Committee of the whole meeting of September the 24th.
My name was not in the list of people present. Again.
On committee of the whole?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you may have something against.
Copy paste.
Yes.
Okay. We add
They had to make the cookies or something.
add Councillor Albright to the list of councillors present. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I have a question. But I can ask the question, that's the question now. Was there on those minutes, was there a motion made on the discussion on the building? Or where did that go? Did it just, so I was reading that and.
Well, I'll identify that in business arising.
Business
okay?
arising from the minutes.
that
All
okay?
those
Thank you very much.
against? Nay? Motion carried. Okay, business arising from the minutes. You want to deal with that question right now?
We'll start right away. You waited long for that, huh?
Pretty good.
So the discussion, just for Councillor Surratt's benefit, the discussion around the municipal building was very high level. There was definitely no decision made. Council asked staff to compile a little bit more information and come back. That compilation's not completed yet. So we don't have it on the agenda for discussion tonight. We'll bring it back to the council as soon as possible. One of the things that was asked of staff was to go and re-examine the report done in 2009 to update some of the pricing around the renovations option, which was addressed partially in that report. The other pieces that council asked staff to look at is to identify certain costs around accessibility, like perhaps a shorter term solution to the accessibility issue of the building. That has not been completed yet. And the other item was to get a list of municipal units that have municipal buildings recently constructed, perhaps those that even use the gas tax to construct new, such as I think the municipality of St. Mary's or the district of St. Mary's was mentioned as having a Green Globe certified building. And so I think road trip was mentioned as an option for us to understand what might be out there and what's worked and not worked for those organizations that did that. And I think finally the last piece was, excuse me, the last piece was to look at engaging our local contractors in the kind of decision-making that would be required in terms of retrofit, renovation versus new construction, to get some local expertise, not necessarily engineering, but local contractors' expertise. So that was...
Guidance, it was a guidance.
Yeah.
For staff, I guess, more than anything.
It was, yeah, and it was also an opportunity for council and staff to express some of the shortcomings of this building, the way that it's constructed today. So we did do that, and I mean, accessibility was a high point in that area. It was the major one. There were others, and so that's so again, that's ongoing. Absolutely no decision made other than to get staff to pull together information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or anything on, on the minutes that's not on the agenda? Or?
Business arising, Lucian's not here, but I second his motion to do with his sign for Wedgeport. Is there any progress on that?
I have not received any responses. I'll have to look into that. Yep. I don't recall. I can't say for certain whether the correspondence was issued or not. I'll have to double check. I certainly haven't received a response. So.
Okay. We'll go on to...
Sorry, there's one other item under business arising was the boundary review. So we had the boundary review discussion, we had a special meeting, and the staff was asked to come back with additional information. That's not available here today, but I'm hoping for the next council meeting to have something to look at there. So there's 3 or 4 outstanding items that require a little bit more time, and hopefully they'll come through very soon for you.
Okay. Anything else? No? Next item is Warden's report. You've all seen. It's not very long. We'll kind of condense it. Councillor's report. Anybody, council, have a report to make? Murphy.
Just want to let council know that on September 15th, I attended the air show. It was it was a lot of fun for everyone. I think that, you know, everybody enjoyed it, which they always do. Friday for a bit and Saturday for a bit, I attended downtown Play On games, which was, I was blown out of the water to see the enthusiastic people there, and And, you know, the hollering and going on, and everybody's just having a lot of fun. And on Sunday past, I attended Fireman's Banquet with the Warden at Westport Fire Department, which was it's always good, and I thank Warden Aldrich for the speech he made for council. It was very good. That's it.
Very good, it was short.
It was short but sweet.
Thank you. Councillor Surratt.
I just got a little bit to report on the Yarmouth County Solid Waste Park. There's not a whole lot, but probably maybe involving a little bit of money, and this is why I'd like to bring it up to the councillors so they'll know. Lightning has hit the scales at the solid waste park, and we checked on the deductible. It's $15,000 deductible. The repairs so far, they've spent $15,000 on repairs. They still need 4 cells. I don't know what that means, and 8 cables at a cost of an extra $14,000. So we're looking at maybe $29,000 with the $15,000 deductible. But anyhow, we're looking into that just to let you know that, you know, it did some damage and quite a bit of damage. So we'll be looking into it. Maybe we'll come back to council. We're not sure what's going to happen with the insurance, but just to give you an idea that it's an ongoing thing. And anyhow, they're working on it. So, to let you know that.
Thank you. Councillor Muse.
I attended a meeting this afternoon, afternoon, I guess, of the Housing Committee, and they indicated that they had sent a letter to all the to all municipalities to elect two members to the committee. We did that, but they had no idea, like they hadn't heard back. Now, I don't know if we were supposed to send a letter. Yeah, from us. She wondered, I was asked if we had discussed it at the council level, and I said, well, we were appointed, and I didn't have my minutes, and I really had to think if that's what we had been appointed to, but I said I would check on that. But as far as I knew, but you and I, Aldrich, were appointed to that committee. So anyway, they just said they hadn't heard from our municipality. That's all.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that, but that's possible. I mean, so that decision was made recently, was it not at
It
the
was
last
made.
meeting?
It's in the minutes of our last regular
September
meeting.
24th,
yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just let them know, that's all.
Yeah, it's clearly an oversight on staff, on the staff's perspective, so we'll make sure that they get a letter to indicate that the members are as.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It's just, yeah,
Okay.
thank you for pointing that out.
Anything else, Councillor Muse?
That's all I had.
Councillor Albright?
I attended a few meetings, September, October. I also went with Warden Dockermont to the UNSM regional meeting at Rudders. Lots of information. It was almost like information overload, but they talked about their priorities and initiatives, that kind of thing. September 19th, there was a recreation meeting where we talked about the summer programming, and they had a successful summer and what's coming up for the fall. Also talked about the tennis court retrofits, which we're going to discuss a little further. Gym activities are up and running. They've started again. Also went to a meeting on September 12th, which I was invited to. Councillor Bork was also there, by Frank Saunier. They're looking to create a sports governing body for the municipality of Argyll, of Yarmouth, and the town of Yarmouth. They would like to put us all together to create one umbrella organization to be in charge of sports for the areas. So they've created a steering committee that was my understanding from that meeting. I understand it's a big steering committee, but they met on the night of September 25th, and I wasn't able to go. I went to the Redwood Cup, not the opening,
Reception.
but the reception,
Yeah.
right. Went to that, so I couldn't be there for the steering committee. I also attended some of the games of the Redwood Cup, which was awesome. We had a planning advisory committee meeting on the 3rd of October. We're looking at revamping or revising the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaws. That was kind of the direction that he was seeking for that meeting. And last but not least, on Saturday, this was Fire Prevention Week, and at Tusket Ford, they had an open house for the fire department that I attended. They didn't have the crowd they were hoping for because of the weekend that they chose. It just wasn't the greatest weekend, but it was good. I got to see the jaws of life in action, and fire trucks were there. It was neat. That's it.
That's it. Thank you very much. Deputy?
Yes, just wanted to report on the Bonton Tourism Society. We had the Starlight Festival, I guess 2 weekends ago. Thursday night was at the Musée, where they had storytelling. Friday night was in Wedgeport. We had a reception, kind of like a cocktail party with some guest speakers. And then Saturday night was at the Village Acadien, where they had a foodie night where there was six local restaurants that had some of their samples, and people for $10 had to buy a ticket and get a sample of each from each restaurant. And I think there was 95 adults that participated, which was a good number for the first Starlight Festival. And there was kids also that they had a bonfire with marshmallows and hot dogs, and then stargazing with a few telescopes. It happened to be overcast. It cleared up for about 5 minutes, but anyway, so it was still, all in all, was a good night and a good Starlight Festival for the first one. Pamlico Point Trail Association, I know I've been reporting on this, and they just started putting the gravel. They have Quabequid trail consultants that are in the area, and they're putting gravel on the trail. So pretty soon we should be able to actually walk it, but it's encouraging. There was probably 10 or 15 volunteers there today helping out, so hope to get things, maybe finished off by the end of the week. So if anybody is looking to volunteer, they can always take more volunteers. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Donaldson.
Kathy's going to do it because I couldn't attend the last meeting at Nikhil, and she's going to give you a briefing.
Okay. Councillor Burke.
Last meeting we had with Nikhil, it was with Max Chauvin. It was a seminar we had with the board of directors. It was very good. It was at the Old Argyler, and I guess he was just mainly trying to get out of us what the board of directors, what our purpose was at Nikhil, and what we want for Nikhil, and how to interact with the staff and all that. So it was a very, very interesting and promising for Nikhil. That's our main concern, is the best for Nikhil. And I guess the renovations are going good too.
I drive up
Yeah.
quite often and walk.
And the residents, it gives them something to look at. So it makes it interesting for some of them anyway, and they all seem to, everybody, the staff and the residents are all taking it good, and there's no disruption for anybody there.
Good.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. CAO's report.
I was a late attachment, so I'll just go over it a little bit more detail, not a lot more, a little bit more detail. And I'll try to focus on those areas that council's established as priority for the year. So this year, this CEO's report, and you'll see this is the first time, I've identified those that are council priority in a red, so kind of highlighted them red, just to kind of keep an eye out for the priorities you've established for the year. So ferry restoration, the work continues. Clearly, Quest has or is in the process of signing a deal with the province, and they've signed a deal with the owners of the vessels. So that's the ferry coming back to the area is from that side of the coin is well underway. There's still some work to do there. Still a lot of work to do for such a large endeavor. The ferry terminal is is the area where we're primarily focused on as municipal units. So what's happening is that the ferry terminal will be divested. It'll be divested to the town of Yarmouth first, and then probably re-divested into the Industrial Commission, because the Industrial Commission has been identified as the recipient of the asset. Now, and there's nothing to say that that's where it'll end up, but that's where it has to go, at least in the interim period. So there's a lot of work in the background that's being done there. We've engaged, the Industrial Commission has engaged an engineer that works hand in hand with David Bellefontaine, and they've assessed the property. They've done an estimated cost of retrofit or change to that location in order to accommodate the ferry for May 1. And so that process is a very aggressive timeline. And so that's a very hot item on the plate of the Industrial Commission right now. So the Industrial Commission has met with Greg Kerr, MP, to try to work collaboratively to understand the nature of how we go about approaching the federal government. And so that has its own set of complexities. And so that is moving forward. I think actually there's a report that will be finalized today. I haven't seen it yet. So it'll be finalized today and brought to the attention of the NSIFP group and other players. And so we'll keep you informed as we go. We have an Industrial Commission meeting next Monday, so I'm sure that'll be on the agenda for those of you members of the Commission. The Economic Development Plan and REN, I've personally been spending a lot of time on the REN side of things. We're meeting every 2 weeks to try to get this thing moving. And by we, I can say that we have 5 remaining interested municipalities. Ourselves, the municipality of Yarmouth, the town of Yarmouth, municipality of Digby, and the town of Digby. Both Clare and Barrington, who were initially identified as being part of our REN region, have opted not to join at this time. And then that doesn't mean they won't join later, but they just, I think they're taking a different approach in terms of the REN. So we're working aggressively to complete an intermunicipal agreement amongst the 5 units. We're working on the funding model. We're working on how that works. We're working on interim funding measures that we're going to get from the province. We're starting to engage with the NSBI, Nova Scotia Business Inc., which is they work as a subset of the province, but they're not a provincial department per se. So their mandate is much broader. They're about exports and international contacts, whereas we can't really do that effectively. They have the expertise to do that. So they were attending the meeting today, and they had a lot to offer in the meeting. So it was actually an extremely productive meeting. And I think we're focusing a lot less on who's in and who's out. We're focusing on, let's get this done. And right now, if we continue this pace, we might be the first REN in the province to get going.
You don't see any, because of the new government, the path should still be going.
We don't know.
That's an excellent question. Yeah.
We discussed that today also, but we don't know, of course.
It does cause us some uncertainty, but we're basically proceeding the course. And so we'll see. We won't get too far ahead of ourselves. We'll wait until so there has been funding announced for the interim period that expires at the end of March of this year. And the funding is specific in terms of getting the REN up and going. I think we should, as much as possible, take advantage of this money because it expires in March. So if we don't use it before March, we won't have the opportunity to use that particular piece of money in the new year. So we'll be using the REN core budget to do things that we would otherwise have paid for in another way, and leveraged in a different way. It actually provides more money for the community and to benefit the community. So we're looking at that fairly aggressively. I think in 2 weeks' time we're going to have another meeting, November 1st, and we're moving. So it's good discussion, and so that's moving ahead pretty aggressively. And the local economic ad hoc committee hasn't been established yet. We're planning on bringing those people in hopefully by the end of the month or towards the next meeting, so that we could have our first meeting of the Argyle group in November. That would be my timeline around that. So that's, those two strategic priorities are moving forward. The medical recruitment is addressed both in Brenda's report and my own. We did have a CAP physician recruitment day or days, September 30th and October 1st. And the purpose of that would be to recruit a CAP physician. A CAP physician is a physician that requires, they have to put so much time in Nova Scotia in order to become certified or to become a medical, full-fledged medical practitioner, I guess, for lack of a better way of explaining it. And so we had a special get-together with 8 potential CAP physicians, and it's looking extremely promising that a CAP physician will be located in Pubnico. So I'm seeing that the announcement could be imminent. So that's, if that happens, it would be Peter Loveridge that would mentor that person. So that person would take on a patient load. It would be a new doctor, right? So they generally sign 4-year contracts. So in terms of whether they're going to be there for 4 years or not, I can't say. But I can say that if a CAP physician is designated for Pubnico, they'll be there, they'll have a contract, they'll pay rent, and they'll be at that location. So that's a really positive potential announcement. And of course, that wouldn't have happened if Dr. Loveridge didn't choose to move into the new facility, because he wouldn't have had the room to do that in his existing facility. So a couple of upcoming initiatives and meetings that I just want to make council aware of is the shared services discussion that the municipality of Yarmouth had invited a broader group to discuss. We were supposed to meet today, it got delayed. So I think it's been rescheduled for November. So that's an upcoming item that will come to the attention of this council. And I believe it was the warden that was invited to that initial meeting along with the CAOs. As part of that discussion, I'll be pushing or encouraging, pushing is a negative word, the CAOs from Yarmouth County to meet with myself to talk about the existing level of shared services and how some of the regional work that we're doing can be re-examined and rethought. Because I think that if we're going to look at additional shared services, we have to take account of what we're doing now and what's working and what maybe needs a little bit of work in order to work better. So that discussion will be had before the broader shared services meeting, which I believe has invited municipalities from Digby to Barrington. So that's an up-and-coming item. Policy review, it interests you directly as we get through the policies, or should I say when I get my deputy clerk back, we'll be working through the policies one by one, and we have a subcommittee that deals with that. So the subcommittee has done some work already, and we cite the dog bylaw and the noise bylaws, 2 bylaws that we've changed, and we'll continue that work progressively. And finally, an internal item was the internal control review. This is something that I have not brought to council before, and it relates to improving the transparency around financial statements of this organization by enhancing the audit committee, and that might mean enhancing the audit committee membership. But what it means first and foremost for me is that we should be formally documenting our internal controls. We have internal controls, we use them every day. But generally we rely on our auditors' documentation in order to document our internal controls. I'd like for that piece to be documented internally, and so it can be tested by a third party at any time. So that just adds another layer of rigidness or ability for a governing body, which is the audit committee, to make sure that the internal controls are operating properly. One of the mandates of the audit committee is to make sure that internal controls are operating properly. Well, in order to do that, there needs to be a clear definition of what the internal controls are. So this is the first step in that area. I don't know what the cost will be. I know it'll have to be done externally in order to be done efficiently. So I'll come back to council when I have more information about that.
Is it like 25,000?
No.
Oh, no.
No, much less than that. Much less than that. So we'll come up, there might be more than one option. There might be a cheapie and then a not so cheapie option, depending on what you want to do. So I'll report to you in the future on that. But I just want to let you know that that's happening at the staff level. There's also a couple of updates around the Dennis Point extension and the Wedgeport sewer extensions, or not extension, but construction. Just very briefly, engineers have come up with an initial plan in Dennis Point extension, and they felt like the extension was under costed. So we're looking at another way to do it cheaper. We can't be in a situation where we're doing a project and we're asking the commercial users to pay an exorbitant amount for their portion. So it has to make sense for them. So we've had discussions with the engineer around this, and I'm very confident that we can do it differently that will result in a less costly option. The Wedgeport Sewer Committee has had their meeting, and there were 4 options presented to the Wedgeport Committee. Only one was really viable. So the focus was on what I call option 4, which was a smaller solution. The problem with the smaller solution isn't the cost of the solution, but the amount of users that are actually impacted by that option. And so what happens is the cost is okay, but when you divide it by the amount of users, it's not okay, because there's too few users sharing the cost. So we're having a struggle to try to come up with a viable plan for Wedgeport sewer that will be affordable. So that work, at this point, we'll have to go back to the engineers and see where do we go from here. I think the engineers have been asked to go back, not because they did bad work, they did great work, but it's just, that's not gonna work. This is, it has to be less expensive. Well, the engineers have come back and said, well, it is what it is, right?
Cut anymore.
So we'll have to come up with an approach in terms of dealing with that. So that meeting was last week, so.
More money from the feds, if there was such a thing that would ever come out. Say they did some kind of a plan, okay, we're going to pour a bunch of money. That would help alleviate some of the costs to the residents. Would it, or am I on the wrong part here?
Well, we assumed that if a Wedgeport project was to happen, that we would get 67% funding from provincial and federal already. So I basically, the engineers will look at it from the perspective of the construction. We look at it from the perspective of, okay, where's the funding coming from and what's left? So we would apply gas tax, we would get probably what's called Building Canada funding. So we're restricted as much as in terms of how much gas tax we can use on that project. We can only fund that project 50% with 50% federal funds. It caps at 50%. So we experienced that in the West Pubnico treatment plant expansion. We are actually capped. We can't apply an unlimited amount of gas tax on that particular, on the BCF funded projects. So we tap out. So the other amount has to come from only 2 sources: the resident, or the residents that are on the system, or all residents, the municipality, the taxpayer. So we've seen Tusket. We've seen a contribution made by the municipality on the Tusket system, but typically it's a component of the resident will have to pay a portion of this regardless. So that was my brief CAO's report.
Thank you.
There are other items there if there are any questions at all.
Yesterday or today, there wasn't any.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was surprised when I saw it.
Well, you were so happy, yeah. Any questions or comments, CAO? Kind of short report, so if you want to ask questions.
I'll send you an email if I read it.
Sure.
All right, thank you very much for that. Other business and for decision, number 9, tent policy. All had a chance to read that. Do you have anything to add to that, CAO?
This tent policy has been discussed with the farmer's market as well, so it engaged them in the process. I think that's important for you to consider. I recommend approval. We've back and forth to this a number of times,
Yeah.
and I think it's a reasonable policy, and it seems to be agreeable. The farmers market seems to be agreeable towards it, and I think they're the reason why we're in the tent business. So I would recommend approval unless you have any questions or concerns.
To approve the policy
Yes.
as presented?
Yes.
Do we have a
I'll second
seconder?
that. I'll second that with questions.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Surratt.
A couple of questions, I don't know if our CEO will be able to answer this or not, but the rental rates are $200, I was reading on 6.5. Give you an idea. It says that to set up and dismantle, if it's already set up, why would you want to have $200 to set up and dismantle? I kind of found that a little weird, but maybe something I'm not sure on.
Typically, what would happen is there would not be a tent erection and dismantling, because typically the tent is up for the summer. There is, however, a cost from our perspective, in order to switch off. So if there's a different event, or if there's a different function that happens at the tent, typically municipal resources are asked or required. Typically there's permitting, there's other things, there's other factors at play. So it isn't just, now it could be that the thing will have to come down or go up, but typically it doesn't. So we tried to find a fee that was fair.
Whoever's going to use it.
Right, and that is an extremely low number in terms of that. And the other objective with that low number is that what we tell the farmers market, is that we will charge you rent. I think I don't remember the exact wording, but it's the lesser of, how does that?
6.5.
No, it's specific to the farmers market. I can't recall the number here. I don't see it right away. Essentially, what we say to the farmers market is that the rental arrangement is predetermined. There's a predetermined number, but it's the lesser of that number in the operating costs. So if we were able to reduce costs or offset that, there would be a situation there where it could result in a better arrangement for them. Although that being said, $2,000 for a whole summer is an extremely good deal.
Not a bad rate.
Yeah. So that's okay.
And the second question would be, was on 7.07.5. It is the responsibility of the chosen group to provide a minimum of 5 able-bodied persons to assist in the erection and dismantling of the tent. Of these 5 people, 2 must be present at the erection and dismantling. Why would they want 5 people if they only require 2? It's just found that funny, but anyhow.
So if a dismantling and erection is needed, the reason why they say at least 2 is for continuity. What we were having is a society coming in, and there was only 1 person, then that person isn't available, so it's like starting from scratch. There's actually a way to do it. So it's the reasoning is, let's get at least 2 people so that we can have, if next year they need it again, we can at least have 1 of those 2 people who've done it before.
Thank you.
Yeah.
2 of those same 5.
That's right.
Right.
That's what it means, right?
Yes. 2 of the yes.
2 of the same 5.
It's to increase the probability that next year, if they want it, that we have somebody that's done it before.
To clear up that policy, maybe we'll use that language. 2 of the same 5. Because that's what it means.
But you do need 5, is what it's saying.
Yeah, you do need 5.
Yeah, and I understand what he's
2 of them have to be the same.
2 of the same.
Right.
So the same to know how it went out. I get you.
Okay.
So the last sentence says, of these 5 people,
Yeah.
two must be present at the erection and the dismantling.
Yeah,
So therefore,
Okay.
they know what's going on.
Yeah.
okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else? Heard the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Grants to organization, fall request. So I assume these numbers here are average to whoever responded?
Correct.
or-
What we done.
Correct. So we have 7,500
Yeah.
to distribute in the second round. You can choose to distribute less, if that's up to you. But the allocation on the averages is in front of you or attached on the agenda item.
That's rounded to the 50. It's not the exact averages.
What?
It's rounded to the 50th dollar.
Yeah.
So,
So the
just-
girls' Yarmouth Clippers question there.
Mhm.
There must be some from Argyle on that team, or?
There's quite a few,
Quite a
actually.
few,
Was there?
okay.
That was
Yeah.
my question.
So it's kind of Yarmouth County then?
It's Yarmouth County. I mean, it says Yarmouth Clippers, and it is
Yeah.
under Yarmouth County, but
Okay.
there's at least a third, I'm
Okay.
guessing, but
Okay.
there's more than
All right.
one.
Thank you.
And that's the team that never lost a game all year. They went to the provincials. I got the whole story.
Okay, yes.
I can also say that 250 was approved out of the, I think it was the Yarmouth Recreation budget. They asked and received 250, so I think that's information you should know.
All right.
Any other
The
questions?
other question is the Craft Splash. Do we have anybody from Argyle? Does anybody know if we have anybody from Argyle involved in that?
We have traditionally had people from Argyle in the Craft Splash. I'm less familiar about this year, but we have traditionally had.
That's it.
Trying to think who. No, we've traditionally had it in
No, no,
Argyle.
that's
Usually
okay.
we
As
do,
long as
yeah.
That's what I wondered. The rest was okay.
Yeah. Nice skills.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay?
So I mean, it's council's decision. Ultimately, you have some smaller ones there, and just to remind council what we've done traditionally with some of the smaller ones. Some of the smaller ones, if it was a low amount, if we were like $50 off, we'd say, well, the heck with it. Like, we're either going to do something or we're not. So that's been done in the past. Not that you have to do that. And and none of these obviously were requesting money in the first round, and that's an important piece because they can't do that under the policy.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to move that we accept this amount for the fall branch organization.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Warden and Councillor job descriptions. We've had a lot of time to read this over. We've had this for quite some time.
Yeah, I think I neglected to bring it back to you. I think we had a notice, and we said we'd come back to it, and then
Yeah.
it somehow got, it got fallen off or whatever, fell off the, anyway, it's back. I mean, from our perspective, I think, it's ultimately whether you believe that this document is important to you or not. I mean, ultimately, from a staff's perspective, we felt like it would be useful because people will ask, what does a counselor do, right? And so now you can actually say, hey, look, I have a job description, right? And this, and I mean, that might be a small thing. You may want to call it something different, but it's ultimately a document that describes the kinds of things that you're capable and willing to do for the community. And I think it's important to document that.
And mandated to do also, right?
Yes, because it does talk about some required things that you must do, like you have to be, right? But then there's also, it's softer around some of the community things that you may do,
Yeah.
depending on what
Yeah.
your community asks you.
So what is council's wish on this?
Well, the MGA tells you, in the big book that I got a long time ago, a while back, the MGA wrote this it's all in there, and all this stuff that's here, it's all there. The job description of council. That's whatever council wants to do with it.
If I may,
Yes.
the Councillor Murphy is correct. There are portions of this that come right out of the MGA, especially when it relates to the mandated stuff.
Yeah.
So like the cessation of like, for example, under the warden's job description, under resignation, cessation of qualifications as, or resignation of warden and councillor, well, those provisions come directly from the MGA. See, I think where it's less in the MGA and more done locally is when we talk about the description of the position, like the first couple of pages, and the specific duties and responsibilities. Those would be a combination of the MGA and also our experience here in terms of what the warden and councillor does. So it is based on the MGA, but it expands on what the MGA says in terms of minimum standard.
Yeah. It's basically what we have been doing. Right, most of this, it's... Yes, Councillor Muse.
I see where there's a lot that refers to a mayor or councillor. These were not actually written for Argyle, is that it? Like, where, like it'll say a mayor or councillor or without leave of the council, a mayor or councillor, that, you know, those words are there a lot.
Okay, because, yeah, and those would be the ones that we pulled directly out of the MGA.
Out of the MGA.
Yeah, and that can be amended. We don't have to
No.
leave it like that. I think
Yeah.
we left it there because we felt we wanted to be, like, the things that related to the MGA, we would say it verbatim, but that's not necessarily,
Right.
we can pull that out because you're right, it might confuse the reader.
Yeah, because I thought, when I saw that it actually came out of the MGA. Because,
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's what it
didn't-
is.
Yeah,
A portion of it definitely is.
Right.
Yeah. So we can, I think it's a really valid point, like, we'll pull that out to make it, you know, to make it Argyle,
Yeah.
so it's not
Unless we
confusing.
decided to go with the mayor.
Then we'd have to change the policy then after that.
Yeah, we changed the policy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, Donaldson?
First, the attendance part, is that directly out of the MGA, or is
My
that,
question.
sorry, Guy?
Which,
What is that?
which?
For attendance, is that pulled from the MGA booklet, or is that,
Without leave of council.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's from the NGA, I think.
Let me just double check. I know it was,
Huh?
it was certain partially.
No?
Regular meeting attendance is an important aspect. Well, that's the introduction, complex issue. So the first paragraph is more, okay, attend meetings as regional issues. So are you referring to the warden description or the counselor description? Because I
which
think they're
one am I on
different.
here now? Aren't they both basically the same?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they both basically the same?
Yeah, they seem to be, no, they seem to be the same.
The definitions of regular meeting of council and without legal counsel,
Yes.
is that where you're, that what you're, reading to?
I'm trying to find where I had it here.
Absent
So-
for 3 consecutive regular.
That's the MGA. So the MGA will say, without proper leave, if you miss 3 in a row, you could be asked to not be a counselor or a warden.
That's what I wanted, yeah, that's where I wanted clarification, like, is it basically to do with work-related, if you can't make your council meetings because of work? I can see a position that I used to be in, or Calvin's in, that theoretically, it's quite possible he's gonna miss 3 council meetings in a row. Does that automatically disqualify him, or is, I mean, he's not on vacation, obviously,
Right. I think
or me, or whoever it may be.
the MGA is actually pretty vague on purpose, I think, around that. Because what it says is 3 in a row without leave or without proper notice.
Okay.
So if you said that you were unavailable due to fishing, that may or may not be a good reason to miss a meeting. I think traditionally, it's always been interpreted as a good reason, because we live in a community that is a fishing community. And so I don't think missing 3 in a row, which, by the way, has not happened.
Oh, I realize that.
You know, but could, in theory, happen, right? So, but it's never, I wouldn't consider that to be, I would consider that to be a valid reason. I don't think that it would be something that we would be forced to act on from the MGA's
But
perspective.
if you just don't show up and don't send regrets or anything like that, it's, regardless what it's for, that's wrong.
Right.
And I understand if you're gonna, you're gonna have a period of time where you're gonna be absent. It's a council decision beforehand to allow that to happen.
A leave of absence, or, I don't know.
In a leave of absence situation? Sorry, I missed the question.
Well, that's what you're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm talking about. Oh, well, I mean, this will come right out, for my own situation. I'm thinking about going and taking, schooling for several months, and Tuesday night meetings may be hard to make, and there may be a period of more than 3 weeks. So I'd submit it in writing, need clearance
Yeah.
from council, like, would that qualify as a legitimate reason?
I would be hesitant to, and sorry for interjecting, but I would be hesitant to start pigeonholing any kind of examples until we have them, until council has them before it. I would, and as the CAO alluded to, the act is drafted in such a way, in such a broad manner, that it can accommodate a number of different scenarios. And whether it be for health reasons, whether it be for education, whether it be for work, in my view, it would be broad enough to accommodate a number of scenarios, but council should not, or even by consensus, council should not at this moment start, saying yes to this, no to that, and stuff like that, because each case will have to be reviewed on its own merits.
Thank you.
So,
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
so just to be clear, sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, solicitor had his light on.
Yes, I don't want to usurp Councillor Albright's admirable job earlier of reviewing the variety of minutes, but I noticed a typographical error that I think would be appropriate. It's on the last page of the warden's description, Roman numeral II, at a duly constituted meeting, not a fully constituted meeting, just,
40, yeah?
yeah. The other one is correct, I checked it.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Okay.
yeah. So, sorry but I know I'm being picky, but at the same time, those typographical errors slip in there and they remain there for years.
So I'm
Okay,
not sure.
thank you.
I'm not sure that I clearly answered the question. Does the attendance section come from the MGA? The answer is no. It does not come from the MGA as written. That comes from, that's just setting an expectation that all meetings of council would be attended. Obviously, that's not always possible, but the expectation is there nonetheless. There's a list of specific duties and responsibilities in both. There's also a section on accountability that talks about what we do now, which is at a minimum provide a verbal report of councillors, committees of council. So if they've attended the meeting and they have something to report, that they can do that verbally. Ideally, in writing is great,
Yeah.
but we're not saying that that's always possible, because sometimes you have meetings the same day. So as long as we have the verbal report, I think that's the minimum expectation that we should collectively have on, and which we do now. So that's not different. It's just putting it on paper what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
Ideally, but we'll accept something else, but ideally.
Oh, we'll accept verbal.
Verbal is good, yeah.
A verbal report informs everyone.
Yeah.
And so, and the minutes typically have a synopsis of those reports. So you will have a written version of it. That's not a problem. If you want to submit it in writing, all the better. Then somebody can read it, and if they can read it in advance, all the better. But we understand that's not always possible. That's for staff. Staff reports should be done that way for sure. But, so that's, Anyway, that's
Okay.
the logic behind that. It's not asking you to do something different than you are already doing. It's just documenting what you're doing. And that's, and then we'd have a discussion around the in-camera meetings as well and how that they're confidential.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you want a motion on this?
If you're,
Yes, if,
if you're
yeah.
so willing.
I so move that we accept the job descriptions of warden and councillors as presented by the CAO.
Approve or accept? Approve.
Approve.
Yeah,
Second.
I think is the right wording, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
And we've noted the spelling error and the issue where it says references to mayor will be changed to reflect your
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
So as amended,
as amended, yeah. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion's carried. Tennis court retrofit. I think, Mr. CAO, when you're ready.
I think we have counselors that could speak clearer on what the ARC discussion was. But what we've done here is I'd asked, I wasn't present for the discussion. I've asked the Director of Public Works, John, to put together a memo to council to give council an update where we stand. Excuse me. And also give an update on the pricing or the estimated pricing around some of the repairs that we're looking to do at the tennis court. It's plural, tennis courts. As usual, what we budget and what actually needs to occur are often two different things. So from my perspective, what John had done was established an order of priority in terms of how we would deal with the tennis courts. And the order of priority that the staff had recommended to the ARC was the order of disrepair. Was it usable or not? Right, so if it was not usable, that one became a priority. The other item was, do we own it? So there are some tennis courts we do not own. They are on property that we will have to lease. So one is in SAR and the other is in Amiros Hill. And the other two that we own are in Wedgeport and Pubnico. And so the recommendation was to deal with West Pubnico and Saint-Anne-de-Ruisseau and Amiros Hill. They would fall within the budget of the 80,000 that we had this year, and that in the next year, budget the remaining work for the Wedgeport tennis court. So that sparked a debate, I think, in terms of, because every community wants a bright and new tennis court. I'm hoping that the group was assured that that the intention was to do all of them. So I guess that's where we're left here today. From my perspective, I'd like to get at her. These things take time, and the longer we debate them, the more time goes by, the more winter comes in, the less work we can do. So from my perspective, this is one of the priorities of council, is to get this work done. So I don't want to be holding the bag too heavy at the end of March saying, well, we didn't get it done. So from a staff's perspective, I'd like to do what you told me to do. So I think possibly the councillors that were in attendance to the Argyle Rec Commission can speak about that discussion.
Councillor Surratt, you have,
Okay, yes, I do. I found the memo was a little vague, and I'm glad our CAO did provide some comments there, because it seemed like to me, ARC said, we'll agree to fix Pubnico as long as you fix ours. Well, that's not the way things work. Don't put a gun to my head as a councillor and tell me, yeah, we'll let them do that if you do our woe here. Do we have money in the budget,
Right.
money in the pot? And now that you've explained it. So what they're saying then, Mr. CEO, is Pubnico and Amiros Hill and SAR this year? I understood it was only Pubnico this year. For 80,000.
It would probably be, I think from a practical perspective, it looks like it would be Amiros Hill and Pubnico this year. And I'll explain why.
Yes.
What we need in Amiro's Hill needs the least amount of work in terms of cost. What we can do with Amiro's Hill is actually clean up a lot of the trim around the facility and replace and repair the fencing and some of so that one is actually the asphalt on it is still quite good, right? So that one's probably the least expensive option. And the only thing it requires is a lease agreement between the owner and the municipality to protect everyone involved. So if we could get that, we could move on that fairly quickly, because a lot of that is just excavation and, moving stuff around, and the fencing might take a little time, but you could do that. You wouldn't be bothered you could do that, anytime, right? So the Pubnico was also identified because it was the one that was in the worst state of repair. And we own it, so we know, in terms of the budget, it was either Wedgeport or Pubnico. We couldn't do both in the same year and maintain budget.
So is it owned, Pubnico and Wedgeport is owned? It is not the Conseil Scolaire Radiant? It is owned by the municipality?
It's a pre-1982 school, so the deed is in our name.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the staff's logic around the order at which they would attack this job. Okay, so the SAR one, I think, was in pretty rough shape, and I think the staff was looking to. The location is also problematic in the sense that it's no longer a school. So not to say that the Amiro's Hill location is next to a school, but I think that one is in a lot less state of disrepair. So the question is, how much money are you willing to invest in the tennis court in SAR, where at some point you ask yourself, well, it might be better to reconstruct, and if you're going to reconstruct, would you put it there or would you put it somewhere else, right? So that question still hasn't been really established. I think we may need help from the community in order to get that one right. The SAR tennis court is used. It's still used quite a bit, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I've seen people there.
Yeah, and you have pre-built parking in that area in terms of the old school, so there are advantages of leaving it there. It's just it's gone to a certain extent now that probably requires a little reconsideration. Now, I don't know how it was discussed at the ARC, however. So I think.
I
All
think
right.
originally, before we got when we made the request, we had just had kind of one company come in and look at the tennis courts, and
Yeah.
they didn't do a really thorough check of the tennis courts. So the numbers they had quoted us really weren't as accurate as the other company that came in and actually went and did field visits and said, no, it's going to cost, we realized it was going to cost way more to do the tennis courts than what we had originally, the first company had told us. But they hadn't done as thorough investigating on the tennis courts as the second company did. So we were told West Pubnico was, as CAO Muse said, we own it. It's probably the best bang for your buck kind of thing, because we don't have to worry about getting lease agreements. But there was debate at the ARC, because we felt, why should it all go to one? Why not kind of spread the wealth as much as we can? Amiro's Hill isn't owned by us, but there are really good chances of getting lease agreements with the owner of the Amiro's Hill. And that one doesn't require a whole lot of repair, so that's why that one stayed on the list. We talked about different options for the court at West Pubnico. It's the whole, do you kind of not retrofit, but do you start from scratch, or do you kind of fix it up? And if you fix it up, it may last 10 years, but if you kind of start from scratch, you're looking at 30 years. So we debated that too, and your 30-year fix versus your 10-year fix is a big difference in money. So that was kind of something we discussed. So do we do a 10-year fix and then be able to put more money into another one? Those were all kinds of things that we had discussed. So I don't know if we had really even come to a consensus. We had debated it for a long, long time, but it was my understanding that it would be Amiro's Hill, Pubnico, and the possibility of SAR.
Yes.
And saving Wedgeport if there was money again, because Wedgeport is usable.
it is in the best condition of the four.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's kind of what we had discussed.
And that's when, that one is being used probably.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Deputy
guess recently here, I've seen there is a petition going around in West Pimlico and Lower West at the post office. That people are interested in the community, and people are asking me often if there is, anything going to be done with the tennis courts. So there is interest, and I know probably not just in West Pimlico, but the other communities too, people are showing interest. So I think it's a good initiative, and I want to thank the rec department for, their work and looking into it. And I'm pretty sure we can, resolve all these problems, Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Annie Muse.
I was at the meeting when we discussed this. Now, I see costs here 14, I'm not sure I understand what those are, 14,475 alongside there.
Yeah.
But if I remember correctly, when we had that meeting, that the recommendation was not to repair, of course, for most of them except the Amirs Hill one, which was still in fairly good shape. But I thought that even to replace one was going to use most of our budget, or maybe even more than what we had allotted. So how, when we're looking at doing two, which one is recommended for replacement, where's the money gonna come from? Are we going to be, and plus do another one, are we prepared to put in more money? Is that what I'm understanding, or?
From my perspective, and I'm just trying to open another document at the same time. It was my understanding that we could do the three within the allotted 80. So the new construction would be, and I'm trying to open the document at the same time. This is a document that had been distributed to council before. So let me just double check to see if I can find it. And it did come to 80,000. So forgive me if it's going to take me a little, here it is right here. Okay. So, Saint-Anne-de-Ruisseau had been established as 14,400 plus perhaps 2,500 for fence. That's 16. That's almost 17,000. Amiros Hill was established at $2,500. So that was just a lot of local work. I think that number is lowballed, however. I think once we get in there, it's going to be more than that. I think it's probably a half a day excavation, which won't get you to 2,500, but then there'll be local staff, which will be an internal cost. When you start talking about fence repair, it could be more, right? So I'd say that Amiros Hill is probably closer to 5,000 rather than 2,500. West Pubnico is a shade over 50,000 to do. That includes new asphalt at 28,000 and a recoat. So the recoat is 20 grand, right? So what you got there isn't recoated, it's an asphalt site. So if you chose not to recoat it, clearly you could save money there, but I think you are also reducing your age, your lifespan, thank you, of the tennis court by not coating it with this coat that this Playtech Enterprises puts on these tennis courts. So the 28,000 for asphalt is estimated at that location. Recoat is 20, so it's an amazing number, really. And then the fencing is considered to be estimated around 2,500. Contingency of 7,500 for all of the projects combined brings us at 77,475, including our taxes will bring us at 80. So to do West Pubnico, Amiros Hill, and SAR will come very close to 80. It could be below, and it could be more, but a shade more, not a heck of a lot more.
So what are these 14,475? That's what I don't
That,
understand.
I apologize, and so that was
Another company.
that was another company's
Another company.
Oh, sorry.
initial assessment.
Okay.
Gave an assessment.
Yeah.
I just-
No, it wasn't clear. Sorry, it wasn't clear on the document. I see
No,
that
I
now.
couldn't figure it out
When
either.
when you see the numbers a million times, it seems obvious, right? So,
Yeah.
so from that perspective, yeah, that was the other company that was
Okay.
saying, we can do it for this much.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
it doesn't appear to be.
The telephone call from Halifax?
Well, I think it's, they made an assessment
Doesn't
and the
matter.
other guys
It doesn't
think-
matter, it's not gonna happen.
made a different
No.
assessment.
It's not gonna happen anyhow.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Just
Okay.
one
okay,
clarification.
thank you. Donaldson?
Yes, I remember being very much in favor of this last spring when we budgeted the money. And I don't know quite how to say this, but if we got all four up and running and then budgeted again for next year, more money and following years perhaps, like put this coating on, do the asphalt is the first step on as many as you can, and then next year, the following years, resurface them and even build new courts in other communities. I'd like to see this not just a one-year thing, but ongoing for a few years, because these are the kinds of things, in my mind, that are important to do as municipal government in your community, sports facilities, and even like playgrounds, that type of thing. So I'd like to see us focus more on this. So if it means asphalt for Pumlico and SAR or wherever, and a little bit of work to get Wedgeport up and going a little better, and then next year, put the coating on all four of them. There's different options you can do, so, I guess my point is, let's use the 80, however you guys decide, but don't stop there.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was only for this year, the 80,
Yeah.
yeah, that we put in the budget.
Well, we were
Whatever.
hopeful that I think we increased the 80 because the information we were given at the time, the initial number was like 40 or 50. And we jacked it up to 80 because then we got new information from one of the two companies that eventually bid. And so that's the so the you council approved the budget, I think, under the assumption that 80 would do all of them.
Thank you. That was my
So
question.
so you
Yeah.
have a decision to
My
make.
question.
Your decision might be, look, let's do all of them, right? And because next year we're gonna be budgeting for it anyway, because that was our intention, to do all of them. You can do that, but that will require a motion, because that decision will put us over the 80,000 budget. And so what we do is when it's over budget, it comes here for reconsideration. Ultimately, a budget is a 12-month document, right? So if you spend it this year, you're not gonna budget for it next year, right? If you don't, then you're gonna budget for next year. So it's really up to you what you want to do. And that's about it. We'll do whatever you want us to do, essentially. I don't know that we could do the asphalt and then the recoat later. I'm not sure how that works
Oh, I don't know.
logistically. But it's an interesting thought. I'm not sure. I'd have to refer back to the supplier.
Okay, thank you. Surratt?
I guess maybe Anna as CEO answered my question. There was, my understanding was $80,000 was to do these four places, and this was a one-time thing to do the tennis courts. And I guess by the looks of this, I guess it was not checked out properly, and when they found out more information, I guess it's gonna need more money. And I guess my thought was this, it was a 80,000, that's it, we'll move on to other infrastructure next year. But as Councillor Donaldson said, if it's 80,000 this year, I'm certainly willing not to go over that. I say the 80,000 is what we voted on, let's keep it there for now. And certainly next year come in where Westport is usable. And as Councillor Donaldson said, let's work on getting everything ready as much as we can year after year and keep this infrastructure in good shape. I think it was let go down as I don't think it's the recreation coordinator, Natalie, would be our.
They weren't being used.
Yeah, Natty, who is our
Active living.
active living, thank you. She certainly pointed out the infrastructure had really gone down over the years, and we've got to address that, which we are. Thank you. That's it.
So what is the wish of council?
I'd like to make a motion that we do the three courts as indicated on this memo from the ARC, and the 80,000 be spent as close to the 80,000 as possible, and I guess they'll have to resubmit next year, but that's for the other court in Westport. But I'd like to move that we accept this recommendation from the ARC, 80,000.
Thank you. Did you have anything else to
No,
add,
no,
Richard?
not at this time. We're waiting for budget, Ms. Blank.
Okay.
I'm just thinking
Questions been
of the high
asked?
schools that we'd like to
We've
have.
been discussed, and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Sidewalks.
Food service, huh?
That could be a discussion, all right?
It's a big discussion.
Yeah.
We want some.
You're the one that asked to put this on?
Yeah, I've been asked quite a few people in my community, that they wish to have sidewalks. I said I'd bring it to council, and so I like just to open discussion, because we don't really discuss sidewalks. I know there's gas tax for sidewalks. Sidewalks are expensive, but people are being more active. We're promoting people to be active. Maybe these sidewalks could be linked to our trails. I don't know what else to add on. I have to make sure if we want sidewalks in my community in East Pumlico, that they're willing to, they'd have to pay extra taxes for sidewalks. It's about $1 million per kilometer. I hope they understand that. I have told them that. But I think they're important. Other communities have them, they all use them. People are, like I say, we're promoting people to be active, so I'm only voicing out what people are in my community are saying. So I'm just opening up discussion. Maybe we need more information on how to go about this.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Speaking about discussions on sidewalks, we've had a big one 10 years ago that I've tried for Plymouth, for the school, from the Newell Road to the school, because of the kids and the high traffic volume in that area. And I did, inquire about it a lot. I still do. And it is $1 million a kilometer. I don't know if I should, I can probably say, I can say this because I asked at one of the FCMs or UNSM meetings, I asked Ronnie LeBlanc, now the warden, of how they went about getting sidewalks into their community in Clare. And what they done, they took a poll, and if they were gonna do 2 kilometers of sidewalk, 2 kilometers of sidewalk, or 1 kilometer, but we say 2 kilometers of sidewalk, they had a public meeting for the 2 kilometers of where the sidewalks were gonna go. They had a public meeting. If they had 85%, and they had to have 85% approval at this meeting in order to proceed. And then they take the $2 million for the 2 kilometers and they divide it amongst the houses that were in those 2 kilometers, and that's what the residents paid. So, and we've gone through this and gone through this and gone through this, and I guess there's not a whole lot of money coming from federal, provincial, or what have you. I've even gone there, and to no avail. So, yeah, we can have the discussion again, but,
If people are willing to pay, they can have sidewalks.
That's what they did in Clare.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they got it. And then if they put sidewalks in East Pubnico, or if they put sidewalks in Plymouth or Wedgeport, what have you, which they have now, but it was a third. I think at the time when you guys were here, Mr. Warden, at the time, no?
No, it was, the only municipality only paid 13% back at that time.
Okay.
13%, that's it.
13%.
So-
That's how Pubnico and Wedgeport come originally.
So there's nothing like that anymore.
And that was before I was on council 21 years ago.
And then there's a lot of people, and you know, that can create an open can of whatever. And because if residents get sidewalks in the communities that we talk about, or what have you, and, so, you know, they're saying, well, if we're not getting sidewalks, we're not paying extra taxes for sidewalks that, not in our community. So, you know, that's where I was getting with it. You know, it's a shame, because it's a shame there's not a whole lot of money to put sidewalks in all of the communities, you know, for their tax dollars and what have you. But, you know, I guess there isn't, and what can we do? So that's all I wanted to tell, you know.
Thank you. Councillor Surratt?
There's one thing that down in my district that I've heard more than the Indian Sluice, well, not more. Indian Sluice Bridge has been the biggest thing, but
No.
Did you ever guess that? But sidewalks, that's something that people, whether you're in Sluice Point, Murray Hill, Surrey Island, it doesn't matter where, this is something people ask me, not all the time, every once in a while, especially a lot of the ladies, they'll say, we like to walk, probably men don't walk or what, but down our way, but I'll have walks, I see quite a bit. But anyhow, a lot of the ladies say, you know, too bad we don't have sidewalks, and when I throw the word out of $1 million a kilometer, well, who pays that? Of course, when I say it has to be the residents. And that they back, right away, they seize up and they back off. And like Councillor Burke, I wish we could get, you know, a kilometer per village down home. I just so much wish that it would encourage a lot of exercising, which is needed, as we all know. Further to that, it's funny that this discussion comes up. I've had two people last week at the garage stop to see me, and they both told me they're people from Tuscan. And these two people have told me they've actually drove people to Yarmouth to walk in Yarmouth because Tuscan is not long enough to walk. And they said, you know, originally when Tuscan was made, it was supposed to go to the Hanging Oak, and those that are here, that were here prior to me, when they built the Tuscan sidewalks, might know this, but for some reason, because of budgetary, it was planned to go up to the Hanging Oak, but the CEO at the time, I don't know which one it was, but apparently they put the plans to put money somewhere else, and Tuscan was shrunk. So you're off the hook, Mr. Muse. No, but anyhow, I think it was CEO LeBlanc, in fact, is what I was told by one of the residents in Tuscan. But they've told me they brought people from in the US on vacation, want to go for walks, and in the Tuscan area, and they'll go in Yarmouth. And I found that, you know, pretty interesting, that people would go that far to go walk. That's all I have to say.
You go that far for nothing? Deputy Warden?
Just, you know, I guess in West Pumlico there is a sidewalk, but in my district, in Lower West, there's no sidewalk. But I do hear a lot of people, because of the high traffic, and especially in the Dennis Point Road area, with all the big trucks and stuff, there's always people asking about sidewalks. But I think the initiative that, you know, especially the West Pumlico Trail, the Pumlico Point Trail Association has taken, is that, look, you know, for, I guess, a cheaper price, or less money, I should say, you can build a trail, a nature trail, where people can, you know, enjoy and go walk, and it'll be wheelchair accessible, it'll be age-friendly. The only thing is you can't walk down the trail and go do your shopping or anything like that. But, you know, I guess it's a different angle, it's a different way. Again, it does include active living, you know, so I guess I'm kind of pitching it to the rest of you that it might be, you know, another avenue that we can use that would be more cost effective.
And also the trails that we have already, you know.
Yes.
Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, that's basically what I was gonna mention, like, we have trails, we're spending some money on the trails. I mean, trails are for recreational walking. to me, sidewalks aren't built for recreational walking. They're, go from business to business and keep you out of the traffic, but I don't think the sole purpose when municipalities look at sidewalks is for to build them for walking trails.
Yeah. Councillor Bork?
Yeah, I just want to mention, I have one person that told me that they had said, just look at the number of accidents, people that did get killed alongside the roads, because our speed limit is 80, it's quite fast. And we have a heavy traffic, big trucks and things like that, and at night you can't see. There's not very many street lights and things like that, so she said, like, one life is worth more than $1 million. I said, well, yeah, you're right. So it's just a point to bring up, and I thought I'd mention that. And on the trails, we do have trails. They're great to walk during the day, but at night you can't walk them, and you can't sometimes go by yourself when the coyotes are out. It's a safety issue as well.
Thank you. Councillor Muse?
Getting back to what Councillor Surratt said about the sidewalks in Tuscan, when we built the sidewalks, and I say we, I was with Department of Transportation, that's when transportation decided they were paying for the sidewalks. Now, the municipality were paying a portion, but very, very little, like Councillor Donaldson said. But when they did the one in Tuscan, what it was from the home, because of the seniors, to the post office and the store. That was the purpose of that. And when you said they were going to go to a Hanging Oak, I don't know if you remember, but there was a walking space outside, off the road, from the courthouse right down to the Hanging Oak before. People never walked on the road there. You'd always walk on that side. That was private property or something. Something happened that all of a sudden that was gone, and then people had to walk on the road for some reason. I don't know what happened there, but
There was a walking trail.
there was a walking trail
Next
there.
to the ditch.
Right in front of the cemetery,
Yes.
right down to
Yeah.
the courthouse, actually. I get a lot of comments as well, sidewalks.
Me
I've
too,
even had
every
people
day.
tell me, I'm willing to pay more taxes if I had sidewalks, and another issue is streetlights. Streetlights and sidewalks seem to be, what are we getting for our money? We don't have streetlights or sidewalks. That's all you hear, you hear that a lot. But I don't think they realize the cost. I don't think they realize what it would involve them as far as paying if that was to happen. And boy, you start doing that, and you can have a petition and probably enough names that would say that yes, we'll go with that. But then you've got people in between. You can't skip these places, and they're stuck to paying whether they want it or not.
Yeah.
And that's a danger of that, I find.
You get 85% that want to pay, and the
Yeah.
other 50%
The other
are going to
50
have to pay.
still have to pay, whether sometimes some of them
Yeah.
can't even afford it, but
Yeah.
because they end up where they're living, they end up paying
Yeah.
for that as well.
Yeah.
It's something, I guess, that we have to really, really look hard, and not make decisions like that, because I think it impacts people that, we know people want them, but
Oh, yeah.
I think they have to realize what it would cost.
I hear it every day. The only downfall of having the sidewalks in front of your house, you get all the Halloweeners. And I don't live on the sidewalk. Yes?
Just on the issue of sidewalks, if council wants to re-examine that, there is one source of funding that you have available, and it's the gas tax. That's right. Okay? So not suggesting that you would put 100% of your gas tax towards sidewalk. Obviously, there's a priority setting process here, but you do have an ability to offset some of the costs of the sidewalk construction utilizing the gas tax funds. Now, clearly we've used the gas tax funds up until now on mostly wastewater initiatives. Unfortunately for some communities, we only have two major wastewater districts, one in Tuscan, one in Pamlico. So outside of solid waste, which is our landfill, most of our gas tax has been expended on the wastewater in those two areas. I think that if you're serious about examining sidewalks, we would have to re-examine how we utilize our gas tax and what we want to use the gas tax for.
And just have a policy that percentage that you would use for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, the decisions that you'd have to face as a council is, you could probably, I'd have to double check this, but you could probably ask people outside of let's say you build a kilometer of sidewalk. Well, that kilometer, if it's attaching communities, or if it's attaching an active trail to another active trail, for example, the benefit of that could be far more spread than those that are physically living next to the sidewalk. But it's the age-old argument. If it's not in front of your house, are you willing to pay? Are you willing to pay your share? And ultimately, it's the same math as the Wedgeport sewer. You take $1 million and you apply an amount towards that, and whatever's left is paid for by the amount of people that are on that strip. And the more people you got, the more affordable it is. Right? So I think a policy might help you maybe isolate areas that you want to do that work. Or I know that one of the initiatives from an active living perspective is an active transportation strategy, which could give you, typically they come in and they look at your active trail system and they say, look, you've got areas where you require, in order for it to be continuous, you require expansion. So you might actually have a report that would tell you where to focus if you wanted to do that. See, the problem is where do you put them? Because everybody wants them.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
everybody.
And you can't put them in more densely populated areas. It's obviously more affordable.
That's all I'm hearing, some of the same places
Yeah.
that get it, the people with the more population. So the little ones, you keep on paying taxes and you never get nothing. And and I mean, it's not totally true, but it's the way we see it, a lot of us.
Well, certainly from our perspective in West Pubnico and in Wedgeport and in Tuscot,
That's it.
at the time we had constructed those, the municipality paid the 13%. I don't recall the arrangement having the community pay because it was such a low number that it could be afforded at that time. The other item that might be subject to discussion is the $1 million. And so the $1 million is based upon a certain spec, certain specification. What if we could build it, like what if the Department of Transportation could allow a lower specification that might actually decrease the cost of the project?
That's what they do in Clare. They have a lot of sidewalks that don't have any curb, they don't have,
No, it's all asphalt. Like,
no, but I mean, they don't have a curb, it's not built up like,
No.
That's right.
no,
but it's level
yeah.
fields,
Yeah.
some of them,
So is it the Department of Transportation that sets it, or you can set your own? Just for two arguments here. One that I thought it had to be $1 million, that's it. All of a sudden, I'm hearing now, it could be less.
We're saying that the general rule of thumb is that it's $1,000 a square meter for sidewalk, so a kilometer would be $1 million. But that's making certain assumptions around the specifications of the sidewalk, right? I don't know if the specifications, the specifications are in some way developed by the Department of Transportation because it's in their right of way. So they actually define some minimum standards in terms of what that should look like because it's on their property. So I had a discussion, it seems like a while ago, I think the last time we talked about this, with Greg, the area manager, and he had mentioned that there might have been discussions around reducing that spec or allowing an easier or a reduced specification for that. I don't know where
It's not written
that
down
is.
nowhere.
And that may have been a discussion that went nowhere inside of the organization, but I do know that part of the reason why it's costly is because the specification is established at a fairly high level for safety, and there's a lot of good reasons, right?
Councillor Muse?
I missed a little bit of the discussion, but I know there's two different ways. There's a cheaper way to make sidewalks. You can have a sidewalk where there's urban and rural specifications, which one of them you need your curb and gutter, and when you do that, you need a storm sewer installation,
Yeah.
because you're filling your ditch, right? That's the one that would cost $1 million a
Yes.
kilometer. Then you have the type that you build behind the ditch that's not connected to the road, right? So you still have your ditch, so you save on the storm sewer part of it, on the curb part of it, on the park lane part of it. But the department doesn't always want you to build those. They may not allow you to build that type of sidewalk. That's a much
Because-
cheaper way.
Because
Well, because then there's,
We
I
don't
guess
know.
they have their own reasons
Yeah,
why.
yeah.
But I know some of the reasons that were given was that all of a sudden you've got your grass growing in between, there's more maintenance for them and whatever, right? So definitely there's a cheaper way if the
Yes.
department would allow it.
Yeah. And
Because
is
you're not
there a
disturbing
possibility that they would allow it in some areas and not
And not
others? It
others.
depends, I
It
suppose.
depends,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We're not gonna make any decisions tonight, I guess, but it's good to have the discussion and, yeah. Okay.
So from a staff's perspective, is there anything that council wishes from staff in terms to follow through on this?
I'd like to see, sorry.
Yes.
I'd like to see just a little more clarification what Danny was talking about, have a look at option two. I have an idea that what you're building like that behind the ditch, encroachment becomes an issue with landowners too, right? So, and that would have to be something that looked at in that certain area, because I've seen them before where they've actually made little curves, like they go straight, then they make a curve and.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Deputy?
And I would also like to see the numbers, we've been throwing numbers around, but, you know, the $1 million, we've been talking about 1 million per kilometer for I don't know how many years now. So I've got a feeling that 1 million might not be exactly 1 million.
Might be 1.2 now.
And as far as the
Yeah.
other way of doing it, it would be interesting to see
Oh, yeah.
what the prices are.
Yeah.
If staff could bring that up to us, it would
Have a
be.
chat with, huh?
Yeah, that's,
Want a motion to that effect?
motion would be great. That would
Great,
be
I'll make that a
clear.
motion.
Make
I'll
it clear.
second it.
Yep.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's carried.
So the motion, to be clear, is to get clarification
Yeah.
on the sidewalk construction specifications that are desirable
Yeah.
from Department of Transportation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
The
Yeah,
ins and
perfect.
outs, I guess.
Next item, 9F, MLA, I think we should send him a letter, a card or something, a letter of congratulations on his recent victory.
May I offer a suggestion?
Yes.
To the council? Perhaps we would send a letter of congratulations to also the MLAs in our immediate partner region as well.
Okay.
So to
Yes.
Zach Churchill and to
The
Gordon Wilson
Wren district, or,
and Sterling Bellevaux, some of our partners in this area, to extend our congratulations. That's up to you, I just offer a
yeah,
suggestion.
It's a good idea.
well, whatever,
And while
whatever
we're-
wishes.
And
your
while we're
wish.
at it, probably we could send a letter congratulating to the new premier too.
That'd be
Yeah, I
good.
think that's a
Really-
great idea.
I thought of that too. It'd be a good idea.
No motion?
We don't have a motion yet? No.
I'll make that a motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Or, Councillor
No,
Burke?
that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Still, it's done.
It's been done.
9G, school zone Plymouth. I guess what you're looking for is to ask the department to shrink the zone?
Yeah, well, we had discussed that before.
Yeah.
We had discussed that before at one of the council meetings, that when I'm sure that when the wasteboard one was in effect, and that was like a, down to 30 kilometer, and we had asked
Yeah,
about maybe making it a little higher, like the 50, like there's in most school zones. I know Pubnico's at 30.
no.
No, it's a 50. It's a
No,
50.
because it was a 60 before. It's a
Okay,
60.
and same as wasteboard. So wasteboard, they took it out, right out, because the school is on a side road.
So
going
they
down.
took, there's no school zone?
No, the
Nothing.
schools, the school zone in Wasteport starts when you turn the road to go down.
Okay.
And
They removed it from the,
They removed it from the main road.
yes.
That's gone. But the Plymouth one, a lot of residents from the Wasteport area and Wasteport and Plymouth, they're frustrated because it's so long. It's, if you go down there, you will notice it.
I know.
Because it's a long, long ways. It goes like when you go past the school, it's way past Louis' twine shop before the end of school zone.
It's pretty near to the Schmidt Dominic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you're going towards Wasteport, you're way over past,
You're almost to the Sims Road.
yeah, you're almost to the Sims Road there. So they're asking to, they're not asking to change the speed limit, just shorten the distance a little bit. So, I don't know if you, whatever, I'll go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Warden.
I think probably what we have to do is just write a letter to the department
Yes.
stating what you just said, and I guess see what their opinion is. I'm sure they've got a reason, they might have a reason why it's such a long zone, or they might not, so.
It may be regulated as a result, that's an 80-kilometer zone, or 70, Councillor?
70.
70, it may be regulated, there might be distance requirements, but that's a question for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we can always ask.
Okay,
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I think that will be.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now we go on to correspondence and for information, the Emergency Management Program evaluation. I think that was nice to read, good reading. They're quite happy with the way we're progressing in Western Counties Regional Library Fall Report. You've all had a chance to read that. Financial request, district community grants. We have two. First one is Wedge Haven Seniors Apartments.
That one is one that, for Lucien.
I believe-
Should we wait till he's around?
Oh, yeah.
Should we wait for him to be around?
But I didn't read this.
I around.
Oh, they want something for outdoors?
No, inside.
Oh, inside, the furniture is despicable.
I can speak on this one just briefly because Councillor LeBlanc did talk to me about this.
Yeah.
He got the request. Now Wedge Haven Apartments is actually
Housing.
the housing authority, right? So I was, and so I was a little confused. I think it's probably better we defer this one because I
Yeah.
think Lucien did do some research on this. The fact that it's here may suggest that the research didn't bear any fruit. Like, I guess the question I had asked, that we collectively asked is, why isn't the authority addressing this? Maybe
I
it's
thought
beyond
it was-
their ability, maybe it's, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, so I'm certainly,
And, I mean, is it just the residents there, or do they have an organization, or,
yeah,
you know?
it's very unclear. I don't know where I would, assuming you approve this, where I would cut the check to even. So I think there's work to be done still.
Yeah, I think we should defer this one. Yes. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, just going back on that, I know 2 years ago, I asked, or the same person asked for the same thing. And I recommended that she contact the councillor in that area, which was the other LeBlanc
Yeah.
at the time. And exactly what our CAO just said, it's housing that's supposed to put it there, and they asked housing, and for some reason, and they just didn't seem to get anywheres. And no, there's no organization. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think we should, yeah. We'll wait to get some more information on that one.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
Yeah. And the other one is a Comité de Catéchisme, the Wedgeport. Catechism.
That one's for Lucien too.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Do you want to wait, table both of them?
Wait, just in case he hasn't seen it, or he's 50, but I would prefer for him to be here.
Yeah.
We've
That's what we
done.
normally do.
And we haven't received any indication, like, he may want to recommend a different amount as well.
That's right.
So
That's
what-
right.
This is a holiday.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Next item, a notice of council, of motion by councillors. Is there anybody who wants to have for a future meeting? If not, we'll go to question period.
Nothing right now.
Nothing, rest of work? Okay. Well, we'll tend a motion to go in camera.
Can I just make one comment on something that's come up, and I forgot to report it. I don't know if you realize the post office hours are, as of November the 1st or the 8th, post office in Tussie is going to be closed on Saturdays.
Yeah,
So you all realize that, okay?
the hours is closed also.
Hours is already,
Yeah,
Westport also.
Middle West is,
okay.
Glenwood's
Okay,
had
just-
The hours cut.
Pardon me, hours cut.
Glenwood, hours.
Yeah, same thing, okay.
Good, Ron.
No, I just got
Quite busy today.
I got a letter from Canada Post. I didn't know if anybody else had received
I
the same
think,
letter.
what they did, they have one that stays open on Saturday morning out of 3 in the area or something like that. I think, anyway. I know it came up last spring sometimes. Yeah.
So I'll move to go into camera.
Second.
Move to recess and go in camera. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.